Hey kids, so today I'm going to show you how to set up a basic tent and just some tips and tricks that I've learned over the years with camping. Camping's such a great activity to do with your kids, so I would encourage you to look into it. In the US we have campsites everywhere. You just need to look online and book them. You know, you might have to plan ahead, do it in advance, but this is also, you know, if you need to camp, there's just some tips to show you how to do that. But so I'm going to walk you through that. But first, I have a dad joke for you. So did you hear about the fire at the circus? It was intense. Intense. So anyway, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to choose the right location. You know, you want to look for flat, dry ground with no rocks or roots, and avoid low spots where water might collect if it rains, right? You got to be prepared for that. And you want to stay clear of any dead trees or branches that could fall. So you want to look up above you and make sure that there's no dead limbs that might fall on you. Another tip you could use, I haven't always done it, but if you happen to have a tarp, you could put that down underneath your tent. You want to make sure it's a little bit smaller than your actual footprint of the tent, and you can always fold it under if it's a little bit bigger, but you want it to be fairly close, or you could fold it in half, you know, and then just make sure it's kind of underneath your tent, because you're going to need to stake your tent down, and so it's got to be a little bit smaller than the footprint of the tent. Also, you want to make sure to stake down your tent. So you want to make sure that it's grounded, right? And you've probably seen videos of people who didn't do that, and they set up their tent and then they go fishing and they come back and their tent's gone because it blew away, right? So you got to make sure that your tent is securely grounded or staked to the ground. Now you also want to think ahead a little bit. You got to kind of plan ahead to the best of your ability where you're going to put the entrance to your tent, how you're going to get in and out. Because if you think about it, if the wind is blowing and the rain's coming this way, you don't want the tent facing that way. You want it facing away from that, right? Because if you get up in the morning and it's windy and rainy and you got to go to the bathroom or whatever you need to get up for, and you need to unzip it, and then you got rain coming into your tent, and that's awful. So you want to point that away if at all possible. All right, so the last tip I would say is, and again, there's so many tips I could give you, but a lot of it is through experience. You go out and you go, I probably could have done that a little bit differently, but a really big thing would be to, just like I did here, I set this up in my backyard. So if you buy a brand new tent and you plan to go camping over the weekend, if at all possible, take the tent out, get familiar with it, set it up at home, and then put it back together. It didn't take that long, probably 10 minutes to set up this one. This is just a 2-man tent, but you know, if you're putting together a 4-man tent, kind of the same thing. It won't take you that long, and it'll save you a lot of headaches later. And you want to make sure you have all the parts, because even a manufacturer could leave out the parts, and you don't want to be, oh, we're going to go camping and this is amazing, and you get there and what happened to the poles or the stakes, right? You want to make sure everything's there before you get out into a remote area where, what are you going to do, right? So just plan ahead that way. So okay, I've picked out my spot, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the tent. I have used this tent before, and I just saved that cardboard box because then it makes it easy. If I can roll up my tent and fit it back in that box, it's going to fit back in my little carrying case. The tent I'm setting up is it's about 6 or 7 years old, and it's just a little 2-person tent. Once you start pulling things out of the packaging, you just want to familiarize yourself with the different pieces. You got your stakes, and then this is the fly. I just know that's the fly that goes on the top of the tent, and so I'm familiar with that. Just set that aside for now, because really the first thing we want to do is find the stakes, and then we're gonna stake down the tent to make sure it's secure where we want it. This particular tent has some poles that work with it, 2 cross poles that are longer, and then 1 shorter pole that's meant for the fly. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out and show you how those work. They're kind of slick compared to some of the older tents, so they just fold right up neatly like this, and then you just unfold them, and then they snap together to make one big long pole. Okay, we're going to go ahead and lay out the tent now, where we want to put it, and then we just want to, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you want to make sure you see where the front of the tent is and it's facing the way that you want it to be facing before you stake it down. Okay, I can see that the opening to the tent is right here because there's a zipper that's going to open it up. So I'm going to face it this way, just like I have it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with this corner, staking it down. And then it doesn't really matter which one you start with, just start with one corner and then just work your way around, kind of pulling it tight as you go. And so for this one, I'm just going to push it down with my hand, and then I found a nice flat rock here, and you just push it the rest of the way. You might have to work your way around some rocks that are under the ground, but that's just how you do it. Okay, I got the first one secured. Now I'm just going to work my way around the tent, pulling it tight each time as you do it. So pull it tight, then push it down inside there, make sure it's stuck good. See, I'm fighting a rock there. You might have to move it around just a little bit. Next one, pull it tight. Again, push it down. There we go. Pull it tight, push it down. Okay, so now I find my poles, and again, I have 2 longer poles and 1 shorter pole, and so I'm just going to put those together. They just snap together. Hopefully I can show you that here, but they just fit in together like that. There you go, like that. You know, they might come apart while you're trying to set up the tent, but that's all you do, just put them back together. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and feed it through the obvious holes that are on this particular tent. We're going to feed it through, and we're going to go ahead and do the diagonal ones and just set it all the way through. We're going to go ahead and feed the poles all the way through, the cross poles. Go all the way through with it first before we do anything else. You can see Lola's shadow there, checking out, seeing what I'm doing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and feed the other cross pole all the way through as well. Okay, we're going to go ahead and flex the poles now. So you stick one end of the pole into the hole where the stake is. I'll show you that here in a close-up with this next one. So we're going to flex it on up, right? You just got to be careful, and your pole might come apart a little bit, so you just got to feed it back together, make sure that they're locked in, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is helpful to have a second person, but with one person you can do it easily too. So I'll show you how that connects here. Okay, so you just take it and you see this one little spike sticking up. You just put it right inside there in the end of that pole. Now one pole set up, and we're going to go ahead and do the other pole. Same thing on the other side. And you might have to wiggle it around a little bit because it can get caught on where you threaded it through. You might have to jiggle it around. You can see the pole kind of came undone there, but that's okay. Again, if you had 2 people, it'd be easier, but if you have 1 person, you can easily do it. So I'm setting up that other side, and then I'm going to come around and put that pole back together and then go ahead and lock it in. Okay, we got the main frame of the tent done. It's starting to look like a tent. Okay, so this is the fly that goes on the top of the tent. And you could leave this off if you know it's not going to rain, and then you would be able to look at the stars. I'll show you what that looks like later. I don't have the stars because I'm doing this during the day, but you'll be able to see you can lay down and look up out of your tent, which is kind of fun. But if you know that there's a chance of rain, or if you want to make sure you don't have heat escape, you can go ahead and put the fly on. So it's got its own little pole. Like I said, it's a little shorter pole, and then you just attach that down the middle like I'm doing here, and it's got some Velcro pieces to keep it attached to the fly. It's got little pockets on each end too that I'm just going to put that in, put it on this end. It's already in on the other end. It just fits right in there. Okay, we're going to lay that across the top now that we have that, and then it's just perpendicular to the entrance, so it's going to stick out over the front, kind of like our little roof. And you secure that at each corner with this little hook that just connects to your little loop there. And then just go ahead and hook all 4 corners so that it's nice and secure. And then you'll have these strings on the side too that we're going to go ahead and attach. Okay, Okay, so these strings on the side of the fly they're about 6 foot long. I like to shorten them up though to about 3 foot, because if you ever get out of your tent or somebody's walking in the night or you get up to go to the bathroom, they can be a tripping hazard for sure. So all I did was just shorten it up there, and then I'm going to push that down just like I've done the other stakes that we put in using my flat rock. Do the same thing on the other side. And a little dad tip for you: you want to put your stakes in at an angle if you can, because it'll just hold better. See, you can see I hit a rock here. Just got to move it around a little bit, and there you go. Just put it in at an angle and it'll hold good. Okay, so here's what the front looks like, and we're just going to unzip it and look inside. Pretty exciting. There's the door. There's a nice opening. It's a perfect 2-man tent. And if you want to open that front door like that, keep that open, they usually have something where you just roll it back, and then there's some sort of tie, and I'll show you what that looks like here with a close-up. Just like that. It just hooks in through the loop there. Okay, just like that. And there's another one up top, do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to show you what a view looks like from inside the tent. You just look around. See, I got a nice window. Pretty cool. You can zip that up, and it's got a screen on it as well. There's another window down at the bottom. Basically, that's what it looks like. It's got a little pouch over there too. And the window just unzips like this. You just unzip it, and then it's got a little tie, so to speak, that you can roll it up and then clip it like we did with the front door. Here's what it looks like when you're laying down in the tent. You can see the fly up there. It's got that mesh screen with the fly on top. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the fly to show you what it looks like if you wanted to leave the fly off. So we'll go ahead and remove the fly. So here's what the tent looks like from the outside without that fly, right? So you could sleep out underneath the stars, but you're protected pretty much from mosquitoes inside your tent, and you can still look up at the stars. Kind of fun. And here's what it looks like from inside the tent without the fly. Now we're going to take the tent down and put it back away. So you basically just reverse the process of how you put it up. One tip before removing the poles is make sure you look inside and make sure it's all well swept out, right? Because when you go camping, sometimes you'll have pine needles and stuff. So you want to make sure that it's all clean inside before you put your tent away, and make sure it's all dry as well. And if you have to put a wet tent away, make sure when you get it home and it's dry out at home, set it back up and let it dry out, and then put it back away. Okay, so you want to leave a little bit of an air gap there with your front door, so that when you're folding up the tent, you're not fighting against air bubbles, right? Because it'll just make it that much easier to fold it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the poles. Remove the stakes. And one trick when you're pulling up the stake is you use that little ring there to pull up with, and that'll help give you a little bit of leverage. Trying to just grab with your fingers and pull up, you can pull up with that ring underneath. Now when we fold up or roll up the tent, here's that little box that I have, like I said, and that kind of gives me a rough guide of how big I want it. And so I can kind of figure out, how did I have that here? And then you just kind of divide it in thirds if you have to, or however it works. But with mine, I'm going to fold it in half and then fold it in half again. And like I mentioned before, if you zipped the tent all the way up, air bubbles you're going to be fighting air bubbles, so it might be harder to actually fold it up. So you want to leave a little bit of a gap there in your front door to allow some air out. Put all the poles back in their pouch, and we're going to put the stakes back in their pouch so that everything's easy to find next time, right? So everything just fits back down in that pouch, and then the same thing with the stakes. And just fold up the fly however you want to. This isn't as big a deal as the tent, because you really need to get the tent the right size, but this thing is so lightweight, it's easy just to fit it back into your little tent carrier. My tent carrying case actually has this little tab you can remove to make it a little bit bigger, because sometimes it is difficult to get it back in the little case, but I've never removed it. I've been able to get it back in each time. All right, I hope this video was helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.